I finished a sketchbook. I know. This is fairly unusual for me. First off, I normally have at least 10 sketchbooks in different sizes and papers and everything else on the go, alongside my actual journal. Secondly, at the moment, I have 14 sketchbooks plus my journal on the go. So it's fairly unusual for me to actually finish a sketchbook. Every sketchbook I use or have in use at the moment is a different size, a different orientation. So it might be landscape instead of portrait. It's a different paper. So no two of my on-the-go sketchbooks are identical. Just to clarify, I don't have two of these on the go or anything like that. So let's have a look. This one is January 2021 to August 2021, which is the fastest I've ever finished a sketchbook. I don't think I've ever finished a sketchbook in a year, let alone 8 months. But a lot of what's in here is part of my 365 challenge I've been doing. So I've been doing art for myself every day, whether it's a sketch or a drawing or a full-on painting or whatever. I do something every day that's just for me. I was posting everything originally on my Instagram, but I found that posting everything every day was too much extra pressure, and I was panicking about whether I was behind or not and trying to remember what day I was on and stuff like that. It's much easier to just put it in my sketchbook and post when I feel like it. But I'm currently 193 days in, I think, into the 365. So at some point when I've done all the 365, I will show them all, maybe in order, if I can find them all. I don't know. Bear in mind, they're spread across 14 sketchbooks. Anyway, let's get into this one. I don't honestly remember where most of my stickers came from. The ones occasionally I will know, but sorry. This is the cacti ones that came in the sticky box. These are all just generic stickers, and this is a patch that my friend sent me. So it's an actual physical patch. Generic stickers, and this one is by Mermaid Tales, and so is this one. I bought their calendar this year. So I started January doing Meg Journal's Junk Journal January challenge, but instead of taking the prompts and doing them as junk journal prompts, I did them as sketches. I think this one was January. I think that was the prompt was January. I didn't write down the prompts. This was stitches. This was toasted, I think. List. You can't really see these. They've faded. I can't remember what they were, so I don't know. I think this one was bottles. Looks like bottles and things. This is a Strathmore mixed media book, and I got to say, I love the paper. Absolutely love the paper. But the book itself, I don't know why everybody raves about it. Mine, as you can see, is falling apart, and I'm not rough with my sketchbooks. It never laid flat, and when I did try to get it to lay flat, this happened. It's never once laid completely flat. It just kept bending in the middle. The paper gets really dirty if you handle it too much. And overall, I don't rate the sketchbook itself. I had pages fall out and all sorts, and I've had the same thing happen to my big one. But the paper is a dream. What I've done is I've bought the same paper in a paper pad so that I can use it for drawing on outside of a sketchbook. But I don't think I'll be buying another one of these purely because the sketchbook itself was annoying to use. I do have a hardback one, which I'm doing a lot better with, but the softcover one, didn't like it. I know that's contentious. Everybody loves the Strathmore paper, but for 25 quid that it costs me to get these books here in the UK, they're not 25 quid's worth of amazing. I'd rather buy the paper. This is ballpoint pen. This is Copic marker. At this stage, I was literally just testing out the paper to see what it would take and what it wouldn't. It did take the Copic marker, the pale Copic marker, rather well. The pale colours didn't really bleed through that much. So I managed to do some gouache on the back of this one, and I just painted over where you could see it around the edges with a bit of white gouache, and that works fine. So this is gouache and coloured pencil. This is number 25 of my 365. I had something underneath here that I didn't like, so I just stuck this over the top. This is watercolour and pencil, and ballpoint pen. This is number 1 of my 365. This is a capybara. They are adorable. They're like really huge guinea pigs. I love them. You'll see several 365s, but I don't work in order, so don't expect them to be numbered correctly. This is just a random bat pattern I doodled. Ballpoint pen sketches of cute lambs looking adorable. Oh, I never finished this one. I needed to go in and do the silver spider web behind him, but I never finished him. This was Aquarius as a spider for the Aquarian moon. Number 24 of my 365. This is a hare. At this stage, I was using a limited colour palette. Ginger girl. Of course, there's a ginger girl in every sketchbook. This guy, isn't he cute? He's a platypus? Is that the name? Oh God, I can't remember now. No, he's not a platypus. He's a... Can't remember what he's called. There's a bit of an optical illusion going on here because it looks like these are his eyes and his face is pointing that way. But actually, these are his eyes and this is his nose. Manatee. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a manatee. And this is number 2 of 365. This was for Chinese New Year, the year of the bull. Both of these are watercolour with colour pencil over the top and a bit of gouache in the background. This is acrylic, and this is number 14. So if I say a number, that's out of 365, just so you know. And I believe this was a cover-up. I did something else on this and it didn't work. Or did I use Copic marker on this? I might have used Copic marker on this and then painted the back of this and then drawn the snakes in ballpoint pen and painted them. Number 3. These are adorable. I love this goat. He came out so cute. This is just a page where I had my prompts. This is just a doodle. I never liked this. This is my limited colour palette I was using. So I was using blue, dark purple and Parma violet, grey or silver, white, a light purpley mauve, teal and muted pink. And the teal and muted pink are, teal, yellow gold and muted pink. These are all muted colours and these were all to do with accents, and then this was the basic colour palette. It was based on an astrology palette by Sanctuary Wild on Instagram. Number 9, cute donkey. Who doesn't love a donkey? I think this is the first page I did in this book because this was watching The Hogfather over the holidays. I think in January. Might even have been New Year's Eve. I sat and watched this. These are all 365s, individual ones, all gouache and colour pencil, and all of these are used currently for my Patreon tiers. All of my Patreon tiers are named, so we've got the newts, bats, cats, moths, frogs, and ravens. These are all 365 as well, and these are inspired by Lee Ellickson. I wasn't trying to copy her style. The world has enough people trying to copy Lee Ellickson's style. What I was trying to do was use her technique of colour blocking first with watercolours and gouache, and I think this cream is Posca marker, and then going in and adding details afterwards. For some things it was successful, for other things it wasn't so successful, but it's an interesting technique. This is, I think it's Posca marker, and then I went over it with like a grey watercolour pen. The watercolour pen didn't work very well, and I had to go over it with pencil, but I think if I used an acrylic pen or another Posca, it would work. And I would use this technique again if I was, say, trying to draw at a zoo or something like that, but it's not really my style. It was the technique I was more interested in. And I have other things that I've done where I've used acrylic paint and it's come out much more successful. And since the page was inspired by Lee Ellickson, of course, I did a tiger in her honour. I think this is acrylic and colour pencil. Just a random landscape. I hadn't done a landscape for a while. I recognised that my limited palette was good for a kind of a wintry, mountain, watery landscape. So I found a picture that matched and went for it. Random duck that I drew on a spare bit of paper when I was out one day, and I really liked him. I thought it was cool. Actually, I think it's a swan, not a duck. Yeah, I think it's a swan. These are from the April Art Challenge, I think. Yes, rainbow. Rainbow and frog and raindrops and laced or stitched or something like that. I don't know. It reminded me of a corset, so I did that. A very wonky telephone. I don't know what was going on here, but it looks like a telephone, so who cares if it's wonky. Another spell book. You know how I love to draw spell books. And I think these are all 365s, although I haven't numbered them. World Bee Day, so I drew a bee in non-traditional colours. That was another thing I took from Lee Ellickson's way of working, is to use non-traditional colours for animals. And since I had this limited colour palette, I thought I'd use it tonally rather than trying to do the bee in the traditional colours. But I used my own style. I didn't use her method or anything. It's just gouache and colour pencil. This, that's number 73. This is number 40, and this is a tutorial that I did with Becca Hill Illustrations. I was on her Patreon for a while, and she was doing simplified animals. Not in love with this simplified technique. I love how it looks, but I find it very difficult to do. So this year has really been about experimenting and trying different things, and trying different mediums together and using different colour palettes than I normally would, because that's how I differentiate fun from work. Fun for me is trying things and seeing if it works, and work is teaching, so therefore I have to know what I'm doing, if that makes sense. This is a Lauren Elizabeth Fine Art tutorial. Again, I was on her Patreon for a while. This is number 61. She did it in acrylic. I actually ended up doing it in, surprise, surprise, gouache and colour pencil. And Lauren actually commented on this one on Instagram that she was impressed I'd managed to do the tutorial, but in a completely different medium. So pretty happy with that. He's a cute guy. Tulips, this is just pencil. This was just trying to get a quick colour pencil thing down. Again, I'm pretty sure this was a 365, but it doesn't have a number on this one. This is actually a Patreon tutorial that we did in Saturday Art Club. I have a weekly art club where we do at least 2 hours of either a tutorial or experimentation or something fun. This is a collaged version of Georgia O'Keeffe's Black Mesa landscape. So we took Georgia O'Keeffe's landscape and we painted collage papers with acrylics and other things, and we, had some pattern paper and things. And we just cut them out to resemble her painting. It was pretty successful. I rather like it. The page does end up extremely chunky, but it was worth it. That was number 93. We're up to June now. June is when I started dating things. Because when you're jumping backwards and forwards, it's a lot easier to just throw a date on. And my date stamp runs out this year, so I thought might as well make the most of it while I can use it. This was a work in progress. This started off as number 72. I don't know why I didn't finish it, but I ended up doing a big thistle in a different book. This is number 110, and this is Big Popper from Instagram. You may not recognise him, or you may. He's the bulldog who got depressed when lockdown happened and he couldn't go and see the kids walking past for school anymore. He's doing much better now. And he has Friday. Every Friday he goes and gets his fries from Dunkin' Donuts. But I did this, I think this took me about an hour, actually. I just felt like going in there and using my colour pencils to do flesh tones on a dog. Or using my flesh tone colour pencils to draw a dog. I need to scan that one because I need to send a copy of it to Big Papa's mama. I left this page blank because I didn't want to do anything on the back of this until I'd scanned it. But then I had an accident with my book. So I was working on this guy. He was going to be an acrylic painting. Just a big old gargoyle. I was also doing ink swatches. And yes, you can see there's something going on here. We'll talk about that in a minute. These are ink swatches, acrylic ink swatches. I was just playing with different effects, and like this was putting a layer of wet over dry. This was wet ink into water. This was just plain. This was two colours. You know, just playing around, seeing what different effects I could get. Because this paper holds up so well to these kind of media. This girl, I loved the sketch so much I actually ended up redrawing her. I traced her out of this book into my new book, and this one was just a page I was playing with. And then I spilt my coffee all over my book. Ah! As it happens, I think I was working on this page. Was I working on this page? Yeah, I was doing a second layer on these. And coffee everywhere. Fortunately, it went all the way across this page and I managed to catch it before it went over here. Thank goodness I had this wax paper here because it stopped it seeping through. But only this side of my sketchbook was ruined, and I was gutted because I was only 8 pages short of finishing the sketchbook. So a lot of these pages got completely ruined. I'm not averse to coffee-stained pages in any way, but what I've found with this paper is once it gets wet and then dries, it's not so easy to work with. So the coffee staining wasn't an addition in this. Had it been my moleskin journal, I would have just dried it out, ironed it, and used it. But this, the paper just, it wasn't the same afterwards. So I traced her out and put her in my new book. These 2 pages were so badly damaged, I stuck them together. And then I just used these pages. As you can see, these are short. These are short pages. I cut the edges off because they were absolutely saturated with coffee and it looked vile. So I cut the edges off and I just used these for swatching. So this is my Mozart Pan Watercolors. They're a little bit like the Gansai Tambi, but they're a bit cheaper. I love these neon colours. Can you see how neon these are? Even the red is really neon. The only one that doesn't come out neon is the blue, but blue never does. But I really love these neon colours. I even like the pink. I know. Who is she? These are the Gansai Tambi ones because I wanted to see how they compared to the Mozart ones. And the Mozart ones granulate more, but the Gansai Tambi ones are thicker. So I really want to try and do something using all of these colours together. I think a nighttime scene or something like that might be good. I might even use them for Halloween. I don't know. I haven't decided which list I'm going to use for Halloween. There's so many now. It's rather hard to work it out. This was I did the sketch in my moleskin sketchbook for Big Papa, and then I traced it out into here because although this paper takes a beating, what I found is if you draw on it and then you erase and then you draw on it and you erase, it doesn't like it. So it's a lot easier to do a pencil drawing somewhere else and then transfer it into here as a finished piece. And the obligatory ugly swatch page at the back. And that's it. That's my Strathmore mixed media book. I won't be getting this soft cover version again. I do have the hardcover version, which I am currently using. I've already started it. There's that sketch that I transferred over. Oh, I transferred my gargoyle as well. No, I redrew my gargoyle. I drew him smaller. So yeah, I've already been using this one. I'm already enjoying the hardcover much better than the softcover, even though it also doesn't really lie flat. What I'm finding is that I'm not getting that weirdness on the inside edge that causes the paper to kind of buckle and split like it did there. Maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe it's going to do that later on in the book. I don't know. I don't like the binding of these books. The more you try and make them lie flat, the less they lie flat. But I do have a pad of the paper, so I'm going to use a pad of the paper instead for illustrations that I want to do outside my sketchbooks. So for instance, when I did Big Popper, I will do this in one of my rough sketchbooks and then transfer him onto a sheet of paper so he's an individual illustration. I don't very often do individual illustrations outside my sketchbook because I'm a painter. I paint on canvases. I don't do individual illustrations. I do sketchbooks. But maybe it's time to start doing some illustrations on paper because I do like that Strathmore paper. I just don't like the books. Anyway, I think I've said that enough. Let's move on. 14 sketchbooks I'm down to now. Even though I've replaced this one, I am down to 14 because I had another sketchbook that I ditched. The paper was awful. The binding was awful. It was one I already had on the shelf. Don't even know where it came from, but it was horrible, so I threw it out. I did one painting in it and it started to fall apart, so I took the page out and I've put it in my donation box. Maybe somebody else can make use of the paper, but it's not for me. Hopefully, I will have another sketchbook flip for you later in the year because I'm actually quite a long way into the 9x10 version of this, the big one. So hopefully I'll be able to finish that before December, but who knows? Anything could happen between now and then. Thanks for joining me. I will see you all again soon. Bye.